just again, the fights. I mean, they were championing anti-lynching bills, not that they were enacted in the 30s, 40s. But Vito Marcantonio, who was a vice president of the IWO, the congressman from East Harlem, I mean, consistently, was talking about integrating the armed forces or proposing bills of that nature, and the IWO was backing those campaigns. They also, yes, integrating Major League Baseball. They would play games. The IWO had teams, and the teams were integrated. And in between innings, they passed out petitions, right? Sign and send to the Major League Baseball commissioner that we need, integrated baseball. On social programs, I don't think you can say they were the only group, but they were certainly one of the strongest advocates of what became the Social Security Act. They they had a program called Our Plan for Plenty, which talked about universal health care. I live in Canada now, so I know it can be done. But this is 1940. They were talking about government extending Social Security to cover health care in the U.S. They have letters that are sent to the IWO. Max Badock, the general secretary, from Philip Murray, the head of the Congress of Industrial Organizations, saying they're one of the groups that has helped organize the steelworkers in the 1930s, late 1930s. So they were, and I don't want to say they were on the right side of every issue or in the forefront of every issue, but on things like Social Security, industrial unionism, civil rights, they certainly were part of a big part of these coalitions advocating these measures.
And they did so before it became what I would say popular to do this. We think of the civil rights movement as really an offshoot of the late 50s, early 60s. And we think of major organizations, whether it's the NAACP or various Jewish organizations at the forefront of this. But what if we start thinking about what it takes to have a groundswell? And that groundswell comes out in part of the notion of equality for World War II, which is more general and does sweep parts of America, as well as the pushback that happens politically to that with the Cold War. But we also have a groundswell in which you start achieving sort of a critical mass of people thinking about what does it mean on an individual level and what does it mean on a large level, because the IWO had lodges for its 200,000 members, to start working hand in hand. And so we start seeing not only seven-term Congressman Vito Marcantonio working with the Puerto Rican and Southern Italian community in East Harlem, we see IWO Vice President Louise Thompson Patterson organizing in Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance and later, as well as in Chicago. We start seeing Clara Lemlich, who's known famously for the strike of 1909, which has to do with the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire. We see these sort of people coming together, and they are interesting biographically and otherwise. And when we see that type of cooperation, it's a resource for the future to understand how does one forge an interracial alliance, knowing it's going to be contentious, not intuitively obvious, but that people think it's absolutely necessary in the Depression and in the 40s.
I don't want to deny the importance of Paul Robeson, Clara Lemlich, and Marcantonio and others, but what I find important to remember was all kinds of grassroots activism at a time in which it was not taken for granted that civil rights was a great movement. I mean, in Chicago, there was an interracial swim-in at the segregated beaches of the lake there in Chicago, and the IWO organized it and said we are going to go and break this Jim Crow beach. Similar things when a black family moved into Detroit. Uh, IWO contingent showed up and welcomed the black family and painted their house for free at a time when other neighborhood whites were less welcoming, to say the least. So I think that should be inspirational. That yes, all these micro acts of solidarity should be remembered and perhaps uh, uh, emulated today. Yeah.
And IWO members really actually felt empowered when they wrote letters, signed petitions, went on a picket line, or whatever else it was they did, including collecting junk for World War II, because that was part of the war effort. So these are people who come together collectively and individually, and they're absolutely convinced their voice will make a difference and that they will change America.